Hey guys, it's Ginny Silver. We have a really big update regarding frozen Bank of America EDD debit cards. Now, many of you may recall that there was a class action lawsuit filed against Bank of America for EDD claimants who had their Bank of America debit cards frozen, who had their security compromised due to a lack of security protections, and due to a breach from Bank of America with their contract with the EDD. Now, what we have released today is a preliminary injunction from the presiding judge over the Bank of America EDD class action lawsuit. Now, a preliminary injunction is an order that prohibits an action. It is intended to preserve the status quo while the underlying court case is decided upon. Now, a preliminary injunction is temporary and lasts typically the duration of the court case, but can be replaced with a permanent injunction. So, what I'm going to share with this is not permanent. This is not a final ruling, but this is temporary right now with this preliminary injunction. Now, first off, you guys, I want to apologize for doing this in screenshot format. I've released several videos this week where I'm not on camera, and several of you are calling me out on it. I have had a few days where I've had no assistance with childcare during the day, so I promise I will do a longer, more in-depth video on this specific topic, most likely tomorrow or the following day. But because this is such big news and big changes with these EDD debit cards, I wanted to get this out to you as quickly as possible. Anywhere you see defendant, that refers to Bank of America. They state here that the defendant shall be prohibited from considering the results of the bank's initial automated claims fraud filter in investigating or resolving unauthorized transaction error claims. What that means is that Bank of America has a claim fraud filter, kind of like EDD has a stop payment alert system within their internal system. So when something is triggered as being potentially fraudulent, this ruling here states that they cannot use the fraud filter as a basis for resolving unauthorized transactions or claims. So essentially, using that fraud filter only is not permissible. They must follow up and actually review the case before they freeze the account. The next order that was made was that the defendant, Bank of America, shall be prohibited from denying or closing claims or denying provisional or permanent credit to claimants' accounts without conducting and concluding an investigation. So this means for those of you that had your cards frozen, accounts closed without an investigation, this is no longer permissible. They can no longer deny or close claims without an investigation. Next, that B of A shall be prohibited from denying or closing claims without providing the claimant a written explanation of the findings of its investigation. So, for those of you that were subject to a frozen debit card with no warning, it just one day was frozen, this ruling by the judge has prohibited Bank of America from doing it again in the future without providing the claimant a written explanation. Next, Bank of America shall not consider the results of the bank's claim fraud filter as a basis for freezing card accounts of any class member. Next, Bank of America, beginning 10 days after this order that we are reading right now, Bank of America shall reopen any claim that it closed or denied based solely upon the results of its claim fraud filter. And they have up to 30 additional days in order to do this for all claims. The judge ruled that for previously closed claims filed by a class member who had not yet authenticated their identity, that within 10 days of reopening the claim, they are required to send them notification of what had happened and the steps that are needed in order to authenticate their identity. They then have 45 calendar days within the original notice in order to authenticate their identity. For previously closed claims that were filed by a class member who has authenticated their identity already, but the claim has never been reopened, Bank of America shall reopen such claim within 10 days of the entry of this order. The defendant shall complete the investigation and resolve the claim within 45 calendar days of reopening. Bank of America is required within 10 days of this order to give any class members notices whose account are blocked solely upon its claims fraud filter and explain that the bank will promptly unblock their account if the class member authenticates their identity. There are also several rulings here that require Bank of America to set up some dedicated toll-free customer assistance phone numbers for the class action members to contact for various reasons, and some specifics outlined with how they must staff them, how frequently they need to answer those phone lines, etc. Now, in this preliminary injunction, we see two different sets of orders. One set of orders is specifically for the class action lawsuit members, but there are several orders that apply to all Bank of America EDD debit cards. Now, most likely, if you're watching this video, you are not a member of the class action lawsuit, so I want to summarize for you exactly what applies to you. For all EDD debit cards, Bank of America currently is prohibited from freezing accounts based only on its automated claims fraud filter. Bank of America is also currently prohibited from freezing or denying claims without conducting an investigation. And Bank of America is currently prohibited from freezing or denying claims without providing a notice of explanation of investigation of finding. Okay, you guys, so I'm going to be following up this video with a more detailed on-camera video, but I do want to try to get a class action attorney who handles similar cases, if not this attorney, because I doubt that they will talk with me, but I'm going to try, to follow up with me on some questions regarding this. So you guys be on the lookout for an additional video to come. All right, I hope that was helpful. Please click like, subscribe, and leave me a comment down below.